The broadcast of the regular meeting of the Heritage Preservation Commission will now begin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this live broadcast of our virtual meeting of the August 11th, 2020 regular meeting of the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission. This meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. For the record, my name is Madeline Sundberg, and I serve as chair of the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission. And a note, we do seem to be suffering some technical difficulties this evening, so this meeting is being broadcast live only on YouTube. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Bjornberg.
Present.
Fritz.
Present.
Howard.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Mack.
Present.
Holt.
Present.
Beatty.
Here.
Oh, I think Chair Sundberg that you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Present.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And Vanderink.
Here.
Wonderful. That's 9 members here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let the record reflect we do have quorum. With that, we will proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. So our first order of business is to adopt the agenda for the meeting. We'll work off the agendas that are available will be discussed, which items will be on the consent agenda to be approved as recommended by staff without further discussion. So item number 4 is 2413 First Avenue South, Ward. This item will be on the consent agenda unless someone wants to speak in opposition to or modify the staff recommendations. Commissioners, was there anyone who wanted to pull item number 4 from the consent agenda? Okay, I don't see any at this point. Item number 5, 2022 Second Avenue South, Ward 10, Certificate of Appropriateness will be discussed. And item number 6, 4632 Emerson Avenue South, Ward 13, Certificate of Appropriateness will be discussed. And item number 7, Duffy Paper Redevelopment, Ward 3, it's an informational item, and that will be discussed. So the proposed agenda is the consent agenda will include item number 4, 2413 First Avenue South. Again, is there any opposition to staff recommendations for this item? Or anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition to this item? Don't see any at this time. We will approve that consent agenda item in one motion at the start of the meeting. Item number 5, 2022 Second Avenue South, 4632 Emerson Avenue South will have staff presentations, public comment, commission discussion, and action. And item number 7, Duffy Paper Redevelopment is an informational item, and that will have staff presentation and commission discussion. Commissioners, may I have a motion to approve the proposed agenda?
Fritz, so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. Is there a second?
Second, Howard.
Thank you, Commissioner Howard. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Aye.
Sandbolt.
Aye.
Beatty.
Aye.
Sundberg.
Aye.
Vandereyk.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas.
Thank you. The agenda is approved. Our next order of business will be to approve the minutes from our July 28th, 2020 meeting. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Sambolt.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandbolt. Any discussion? With that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Sandbolt.
Aye.
Stady.
Aye.
Sundberg.
Aye.
Vandereyk.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Before I open the hearing to public comments, let me summarize the process for conducting the public hearing in this virtual format. The process is as follows. First, we'll act on the consent agenda we just set. Once items on the consent agenda are approved, the commission is done with those items. Applicants may contact planning staff tomorrow about next steps. After the consent agenda items are approved, we'll take each remaining agenda item in order. First, the planning staff will present its report, and the commissioners may ask questions of staff. Then we will hear from the applicant, and commissioners will invite public comment. First, we'll be taking speakers in the order that they pre-registered, if there are any. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. We're going to really try to keep things concise tonight because this is a voting election night, and so we need to have this meeting completed by 6 p.m. After your name is called, you can state your name and address for the record and then proceed with your comments. After we've completed the list of any pre-registered speakers, we will see if there are any other speakers in the queue who may have called in. In order to activate your microphones, you'll need to press *6 on your phone. So again, we'll take the list of pre-registered speakers in order and then open the floor to any other speakers in the queue. And we ask speakers to provide their name and address before making their comments. Please be sure to keep your comments specific to the application today. After the public comments are complete, I will close the hearing. Commissioners will deliberate and act on the application before us. So I will now open the public hearing on the consent agenda items. Again, is there any opposition to staff recommendations for these items, which is item number 4? Commissioners, any opposition? Or any members of the public? Press *6 for item 4. The only pre-registered speakers for item 4 were the applicant. So I don't see any opposition at this time, so I will close the public hearing on the consent agenda items. May I have a motion to approve staff findings and recommendations for this item?
So moved. Vandereyk.
Thank you, Commissioner Vandereyk. Is there a second?
Second, Sandbolt.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandbolt. Is there a second?
Second, Sandbolt.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandbolt. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Aye.
Sandbolt.
Aye.
Beatty,
Aye.
Van Dyke.
Aye.
I'm sorry, was that yay or nay?
Yay.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sundberg,
Aye.
thank you, that's 9 yays.
Thank you. The consent agenda is approved. So item number 4, 2413 First Avenue South, Ward 10, the certificate of appropriateness is approved as recommended by staff on the agenda. The applicant for that item may contact planning staff tomorrow about next steps. We will now move on to our discussion items. Our first item is number 5, 2022 Second Avenue South, Ward 10, certificate of appropriateness. The staff report will be presented by Sheila Vemmer.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Sheila Vemmer, and I am a senior city planner with the Historic Preservation section of Community Planning and Economic Development for the City of Minneapolis. I am here to present Plan 10981 for 2022 Second Avenue South, Ward 10, and that would be removal and replacement of original historic siding. Next slide, please. Oops. This is the property. It's a multi-family dwelling. It's 2 1/2 stories. And frame, it was built in 1884 by Hagelin and Morse. It's in the Washburn Fair Oaks Historic District. Next slide, please. Here you can see its location. It's just north of the Minneapolis Institute of Art. Next slide, please. Oops. This gives you a little bit of a better placement of you can see the boundaries of the district. Next slide, please. Oops, next slide. These are some views of the home. If you can go back one slide, I believe. Next slide. And some other views of the home. The applicant is proposing to remove all siding and replace with a vinyl product. I've had a little bit of conflicting information on whether or not it's going to be smooth or rough look, wood look. The brand is called Carved Wood 44. Next slide, please. Wood impression. Next slide. It's another view of the home. This is showing some of the damage to the home. It's kind of hard to see from the far away. The applicant sent a few detail shots, which are included in your staff report and package. Next slide, please. Here's some damage beneath a window. The windows have already been replaced. Those were done, I believe, about 10 or 15 years ago. Next slide, please. This is the product. I believe it is the second from the left, I believe, is the product that will be used by the applicant. It's going to match the 3-inch width reveal. Again, it is a vinyl product. The original siding is extant and has been on the home for the lifespan of the home. The recommended motion is to deny the certificate of appropriateness to replace all original wood siding with vinyl siding. This area, this historic district maintains a lot of material integrity. There are 2 homes in the district that had vinyl siding applied to the homes prior to being listed as a historic district. So they are not contributing, but the rest of the homes are very much in compliance with the guidelines for Washburn Fair Oaks. Let's see, I think that is the last slide. Secretary of the Interior Standards number 6 is deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. So this is replacement with vinyl is in violation of standard number 6. The standard number 2 states the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize of a property shall be avoided. There are some trim details that the applicant on their plans do show removal and or change. I don't know if that is going to be what they actually do. And standard number 5 states distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be preserved. Again, the removal of the original craftsmanship in the wood siding is in violation of standard number 5. This concludes my staff report, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Are there any questions for staff?
Hey, Sheila, this is Commissioner Johnson. You said that you're not even sure how it's going to be used because the applicant has not provided that information to us, correct?
The applicant has provided some plans. They didn't go into complete detail. The applicant provided the measurement plans and some elevations of the home. There were some trim on the porch front that didn't match what's actually exists, or there was the trim that is shown or that exists on the porch pediment is not shown in the plan. So we would need to work that out with the applicant, whether or not the trim is included.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Howard.
I just want to confirm that it's not just replacing the siding, it's also replacing the shakes.
Yes.
So it's not just the horizontal, but it's both. And the shakes, would that also be replaced with the vinyl shakes or vinyl siding?
The applicant has indicated vinyl shake siding or vinyl shake look siding.
Okay.
My apologies, I forgot to mention that the vinyl siding is also not compliant with the Washburn Fair Oaks guidelines as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mack has a question. I know it's not really our job, but I'm wondering what materials are permitted by the Washburn Fair Oaks design guidelines, because we have a lot of applicants who come in with the hardy siding sort of things.
The guidelines only specify replacement in kind.
Thank you. Commissioner Sandbold?
Yes, as I'm reading it, so it says new clapboard to an existing clapboard structure should match the directionality and dimensions of the original siding. Where a synthetic or aluminum siding is used, it should match direction, etc. Wouldn't that synthetic siding, wouldn't that cover something of this nature?
So thank you for that question. We discussed this as this section, and there are homes that were included in the district that had asbestos and other synthetic sidings that were appropriate to the time period that they were built. So that is the synthetic that that was mentioned in the guidelines. So if it was a 1930s or 1940s home with asbestos or a metal siding, that would be considered a synthetic siding.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I don't see any at this time. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
With that, I will open the public hearing for the item. I believe the applicant is on the line. If you could press *6 on your phone to activate your microphone, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 7 minutes. I'm going to have a timer going just because this meeting needs to wrap up fairly quickly. So if Chet Funk is on the line, I believe he's the applicant.
Yeah, this is Matt Boys. I think actually the homeowners are the applicant, and Chet Funk with Haven Builders was the contractor who submitted the application on our behalf.
Okay. If you could state your...
Yeah, and I'll try to keep under... Sure, yeah. Matt Boys, and here with Caitlin Ferdig. We're the owners. Our daughter, our 5 months, Olivia, might peep in too, is working from home, but we'll try to keep our comments short. You know, everyone would like to have some time to vote tonight. Yeah, just some context for the project. You know, this is a owner-occupied purchase. We live in the unit, excited about all the characteristics of the home. We're a little discouraged during inspection to find that, although from the street view, it's a beautiful house, that the siding is actually completely beyond any useful life at all. We submitted some pictures, didn't know that we needed to submit more. I was reading through the request. It said the information provided was not sufficient to show a full replacement. You know, we would hope that the siding still worked. It's not money that you know, we're looking forward to spending replacing siding. But I had 3 different general contractors review the house and an inspector that said the entirety of the siding needs to be replaced because the property is sustaining significant damage in and around the windows. Water seeps in when it rains. I was at the property this morning after a recent rainfall, and in about at least 15 different locations, if you press your hand on the wood, water squirts out the side. You can poke your finger through the lat board. So it is to a state that is beyond pulling boards and patching. That happened a little over a decade ago, and not correctly or done well. So the current siding is a mix and match of paint, deterioration, replacement boards. So upon close inspection, the siding has really lost a lot of its integrity. In reviewing options, the best way to go about replacing this from 3 independent general contractors was to remove the siding, make sure that the home is properly wrapped, that any repair is done to any of the interior wood that has been deteriorating from years of neglect and water intrusion, which may include even window replacements, because the inspections showed that there's water intrusion coming on the inside of the home, which could lead to mold issues. So very much an urgent issue on our part. And so I'm trying to read through the historic guidelines. We wanted to present an option that would maintain kind of financial viability that is within reach. Just to start off the context, replacing exactly the same type of materials in the construction in today's market would be a little north of $90,000. The purchase price is $420,000. Our proposed solution is in that $38,000 range. So it's just financially not feasible for us to replace like for like. in which also reading through the historic guidelines is not a requirement. As I was able to look through the Fair Oaks guidelines, the main tenet of the guidelines is that you maintain the color or the direction, the texture, the shape of the materials, and there is no requirement in the guidelines to replace with the exact type of material. I believe in multiple locations, they even say, like, if the original material is clapboard, restoration to this material is encouraged, but it's not required. We would love to replace it if we could afford that, but it's just financially not possible. And again, we would go with the other route of just replacing the boards that are completely missing. But again, that will not resolve the greater issue, and we have concerns for our family and the other tenants that this could lead to mold, and the problems would just run away from the decades of neglect on this siding. So there's a couple comments I'll just run through. Yeah, I think the severity definitely requires a full replacement. Heard that from multiple companies. The trim details, will be maintained. As for details that we provided through this process, I followed up on multiple emails and occasions asking if they had everything that we needed, if staff needed any additional information from us, and that was never requested. So we submitted our application thinking we're in full compliance, and then to read the staff report saying that there's insufficient information provided was a little disheartening, especially with the denial of that. There are vinyl siding already in this district. The product of those vinyl sidings is a product that was made post 1980. So when the designation in 1976 happened, that vinyl siding, just by nature of when the manufacturing year of that vinyl product, means it had to be after the historic designation. So we've gone over and above to try to design this with the intent of the guidelines, which is to maintain the character of the home. We are doing that, but with today's modern building materials, this becomes kind of one of the only options. In a pandemic, in this current economic situation, with the embodiment of the 2040 plan and affordable housing Minneapolis, I think we believe we are maintaining the integrity of the guidelines, but in a way that is the only way possible, quite frankly. And that's, hopefully you can read through the presentation. I think, we're very excited to get the home. I'm a little nervous to pull the siding off and to see what further damage has happened over the last couple of decades of neglect, because that could be adding to the scope of the work. But hopefully we're able to get in there and have Haven Builders, top professionals, do the work as kind of required. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Matt. It sounded like the other speaker was your contractor. Did Chet want to speak, or?
When I spoke with him a couple days ago, he said he's going to try to listen, but he didn't know if he was able to speak.
Okay. Clerk, do we know if anybody else is on the phone for this item?
Hi there, this is Chet Funk. I am on the line as well.
Oh, you are
I'm
on.
happy to make any public commentary. Yep.
Did you
Listening in.
want to? You have 2 minutes if you'd like to.
Oh, sure, I can just validate a from Matt's perspective as well. Obviously, we've taken a look at that and the viability of replacing it with cedar wood from a variety of perspectives, the amount of maintenance that it would require to upkeep in future, as well as just the cost, what he was referencing. So the products that we'd be looking at, these are newer products that have been on the market in very recent years, and the ability, unless you're within a few feet of the product, it would be very, very challenging to distinguish the difference between cedar wood that's been painted, which is what would be required in this one, versus this product. So I can just validate from a contracting perspective, I think that this is a very viable option. Again, it is expensive as well to use the vinyl shakes versus the laps. So every design that we've been putting together has been in congruency with the existing patterns and shape and dimensions of the home. And unfortunately, I was unaware that any information was missing from your guys' application as well, based on my communication. So yeah, I'll keep it at that because I know time is short, but could just put my public commentary in there of support for the project.
Thank you for your comments, Chet. That is our list of registered speakers. I'd just like to check if there are any unregistered speakers in the queue. If you could press *6 to activate your microphone. Okay, doesn't seem like there are any. So with that, I will close the public hearing and open it to commissioner discussion. I wanted to just follow up on Sandbolt's question about the synthetic siding. I was hoping staff member Burke could follow up on that.
Yeah, this is Andrea Burke, supervisor for HPC. Just wanted to say, clarifying Sandbolt's question, that the interpretation in the Washburn-Fair Oaks guidelines is that existing synthetic siding can be replaced. However, when there is existing historic wood siding, the guidelines are not to replace it unless severely deteriorated. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, other thoughts? Commissioner Stady.
I just wanted to point out that these guidelines were written in 1976 for the district, and the materials available at that time were quite different than now. And some of these materials look really good, and considering the price of this house, to keep it affordable, it makes sense to make an exception. So
we have no idea how that would compare to the shingles. I really have a tough time with agreeing that vinyl siding is a sustainable choice and meets the 2040 guidelines. Our 2040 plan. Our 2040 plan specifically says protect historic resources from alterations that are not sensitive to their historic significance. Vinyl siding is not sensitive to the historic significance of this property.
Thank you, Commissioner Howard. Commissioner Johnson.
I wanted to kind of echo what Commissioner Howard said. I don't think that just damage, supports a widespread change throughout the entire building of wood to vinyl. I would need a really compelling reason to vote to replace the wood siding with vinyl. I'm just not seeing it here.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson.
This is Commissioner Mack, and I've forgotten how to get on.
That's okay, Commissioner Mack.
All right. It seems like such a real-world case of the pluses and minuses of historic preservation. I'm struggling with it because I can't see the product in a real world situation. So I I don't feel like looking at a photo of it is sufficient to know what it's going to look like. I agree with Commissioner Stady that there have been a lot of innovation in products, and over the course of the time that this and it's difficult. We run the risk of making it impossible to invest in historic structures, and that we don't want to do, of course. So I'm just struggling with how to approach this. I wish there were some middle way, and I don't know if the owners have looked into Hardy's citing that sort of thing, or if that obviously doesn't specifically meet the guidelines any better. But we've had some cases where we have approved that. So I'm just struggling.
Thank you, Commissioner Mack. Commissioner Van Eyck?
Yeah, I just thought Commissioner Mack brought up some thoughts in my head. I mean, I think that's the points well received. Obviously, I'm very sensitive to the applicants and understand that this is difficult, and it's a difficult part of owning a property within a historic district or that has a historic designation. But I think ultimately, this is my personal opinion. Sounds like it's shared with some of the commissioners. I just don't have enough information to make that call right now. I don't feel I know enough about the materials that are being proposed. I don't feel I know enough about the condition of the siding as it exists today. It's not an issue for me as to whether or not I would approve a replacement of a different kind of siding. I just feel like at this stage, the case hasn't been made. So what I would ask of the applicant is to, if indeed this this vote goes that way, to maybe formulate a different argument as to why we should vote against our guidelines. We have to make a case as to why we're making decisions that might not align with our guidelines, regardless of what year they were written. And I don't feel that that case has been made at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Van Eyck. I agree that it is a difficult part of home ownership. I think many of us know that, and we certainly don't want to price people out of living in historic homes. We love historic homes. That's why we do this. I would encourage the applicant, depending on, assuming this is denied, to consider if they could provide additional information if they want to reapply. I suppose another option, and maybe I'll ask this of staff, is if there had been any discussion on continuing this item for more information, since it sounds like commissioners are looking for both more information on the condition of the existing features and more information on the materials that are proposed.
This is Andrea Burke, supervisor. I will let Sheila Vemmer, staff who worked with the applicant this, describe her efforts in obtaining such information. Sheila, please.
Thank you, commissioners. I have been in contact with the applicants, I believe, since they first applied in April. But I explained to them, we went back and forth about the interpretation of the guidelines, and had mentioned to them that wood was the only replacement material that is acceptable per the guidelines and per the standards. I had asked for documentation of deterioration repeatedly. They sent more photos and more photos when I asked for them. We did go back and forth a lot. I continued to ask for information. This was what they provided. This is all I could get. We could we could definitely discuss going back and doing more documentation on it if that is what you like. And I'm all for that.
Are we still on mute? Can anyone hear us?
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Yeah, this is the applicant.
I'm sorry.
This
The
isn't
public
open, but we have
hearing is
email
closed.
chains.
You can't speak.
Yeah,
at this
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm just disputing some material misrepresentations. I have email chains that I would like to present, and when we.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Once the public hearing closes, we're not allowed to let the applicant continue to speak. Commissioner Sandbolt.
One of the other concerns that I have on this application is despite the fact that the applicant said that they're replicating the areas that are shakes and things, what's packet does not appear to be the same as what's on the existing building. It appears that there's more areas that are kind of that shake appearance, and then there also appears to be some trim on the pediment face that does not appear to be replicated on those images in pages 23 through 26. So I don't know if those images were just intended to be more of kind of an illustration and not exactly which areas are going to be which texture. But for a reapplication, I would expect to see what is actually going to be installed, and so which textures are going to be used where, and which details were going to be retained.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandbolt. Commissioner Stady.
I was gonna speak in favor of maybe doing a continuation, but hearing that, it sounds like a reapplication makes more sense. And I guess I have concerns about, and maybe this is too nitpicky, but the color of the siding. And those drawings, it didn't look like it would be following the historic appearance very well.
Thank you, Commissioner Stady. I agree that it sounds like a reapplication would be more appropriate than a continuation. Commissioner Howard, yes, please make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to deny the certificate of appropriateness to replace all original wood siding with vinyl siding on the building at 2022 2nd Avenue South.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Vander Eyck seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Vander Eyck. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the motion?
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Sandbolt.
Aye.
Stady.
Aye.
Vander Eyck.
Aye, sorry.
Sundberg.
Aye.
That's 9 yeas.
Thank you. That motion passes. The applicant is encouraged to speak to staff about further steps. Our next item is item number 6, 4632 Emerson Avenue South, Ward 13, Certificate of Appropriateness. The staff report will be presented by Sheila Vemmer.
Thank you, commissioners. Again, my name is Sheila Vemmer. I'm a senior city planner. This is for plan number 11184, 4632 Emerson Avenue South in the newly designated Lyndhurst Residential Historic District. This is our first certificate of appropriateness for this district, and this is the home that kicked off the district designation study. This was originally the home that was, there was an application for demolition of the home. The applicant is submitting an application to replace windows, one door, the roof, gutters, and siding, and repair and or replace trim. Next slide, please. So this is a photo of the front facade of the home, just to refresh you. The home was built in 1908. The original owner was Peter A. Pauley, and the original architect was Peter B. Hunt. The home was built by H.J. Bauman. Next slide, please. Here is a general location of where the home is, near Lake Harriet. Next slide, please. The photo in the upper left is a photo, I'm not sure of what the date is, but it gives you an idea. It looks like there was a screened-in porch at some time. It shows you the original Palladian windows. That original oval window and trim is still there. The storm windows, you can see on the upper level, it looks like there was a balustrade up there. It's a little hard to tell. I tried to tweak the photo to see if we can pull out the details on the porch railing. It was a little bit hard, but you can see the home is very much intact from this undated photo. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing to replace, I was told 14 windows. We received originally in the original application, we received a sheet of 28 window replacements. One of those was a sliding door replacement in the back. I've spoken with the applicant about providing a window map of which windows will be replaced and which won't. In the plan, the applicant shows in the upper peak, the Palladian windows, that it would be a 1/1. The applicant says that they will leave the original windows there, so it will still have the arch in the center. It does not reflect that on these plans. You can see on the right the original door and where that is located, and that it will become a sliding door. This is again at the rear of the home and inset. The applicant has also applied for other certificates of no change at the rear of the home. There was a non-original, what is it called? A gazebo type deck. So we do have some discrepancies on the number of windows and the actual what the plans show. So we need to resolve that. But the application is for the 28 windows. Next slide, please. These are examples, I believe, of what the replacement windows will be. They are Marvin. Some of the windows are Marvin Ultimate and some are Marvin Wood. Some are clad in an aluminum exterior. Some are a fiberglass, or a composite material, fiberglass and wood material. We would still need that map of the windows and which windows were going where. Next slide, please. These are some photos of the deterioration. These are just a few. You have more in your packets. This shows the original wood siding and some of the issues with the roof line. And next slide, please. You can see the applicant has provided a few, excuse me, showing deterioration in certain spots. Next slide, please. This is some of the trim at the upper level and along the eaves. The applicant has stated that they will maintain the majority of the trim and repair where necessary. This does look like some will need to be replaced, but replacement in the application was stated as using the same material as the siding. The applicant has proposed to use a product called All Prime siding. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a wood composite siding in the vein of smart siding. We didn't see a warranty. I found a warranty that shows that this has a 10-year warranty. There are some restrictions for the contractor in maintaining an application. Again, this is not a pure wood product, because there are no design guidelines yet, we are following the Secretary of the Interior standards. Again, standard number 6, stating the material to be, it needs to be shown that there's severe deterioration for replacement rather than repair. We do not feel we have enough evidence that all of the siding needs to be removed and replaced. Again, the material is it's a compressed wood material with a coating of a paint on it, or it's primed on both sides. We have several portions to this project. So standard number 2 states the historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials and alterations of features and spaces that characterize the property shall be avoided. We do believe that this new material will offer a different look than the wood siding. We don't have measurements of the reveal and the lap to how deep it will be. The windows, we have no, the applicant did not submit deterioration photos. The statement was that they were looking for energy efficiency, but there were some issues with the windows. Standard number 5 states that distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be maintained or shall be preserved. The proposed work calls for the removal of the distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques and examples of craftsmanship. Again, the wood siding on the home was the original wood siding for the most part, and yes, it needs to be maintained. The new material will also need to be maintained as well. Standard number 6 again is stating that deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, or pictorial evidence. Again, we did not feel that there was enough material and or enough evidence provided, and that the proposed material is not appropriate for the replacement. Staff recommends approval of the application to replace windows and one door, historic wood siding, and repair or replace wood trim, replace the roof, and replace the gutters with the following.
On our company, we are Tyson Homes, and we consider it our mission to protect the architectural integrity of our neighborhood here in Southwest Minneapolis. We've rescued over 100 homes in the neighborhood from the new construction developers and others that strive to change our neighborhood beyond what we're comfortable with. So we're very proud to be representing 4632 Emerson Avenue South. Thanks to Sheila for working so hard with me for the presentation, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the commission as well. One other sidebar too, Tyson Homes, we are actually a 2019 Blend Award winner at 5317 Chowan Avenue South as well. So whenever we're making decisions about how we're going to proceed with the house in Southwest Minneapolis, we always consider the integrity of the home and the original intent of the architecture when we proceed. So I'll start with windows, and I might be repetitive here a little bit with with Sheila, but I'm going to just kind of bullet point this so we can stay on track with our timing here. And thanks for the adjustment for the replacing 14 windows, not 28. And a reminder, that's 14 of 35 total windows. The other windows we feel have too much architectural integrity for this home to warrant replacement. The other windows are nondescript. They're just basic double hung or single pane glass, no grids, nothing that calls attention to itself whatsoever. All of the stained glass, all of the leaded windows, all of those things are being maintained. We are changing out 5 wood storm windows as well that are in terrible condition, and those are windows that cover some of the stained glass windows. So those will also be requested to change out. We're going to be doing a dark brown color on the outside of the windows to match the original historical photo that you guys got to see. I did go through and look at the nondescript windows that I was describing and noted that 50% of the original lead glass is missing from those 14 replacement windows that we are proposing. The glass that was installed was very poorly installed. It would all need to come out and be reglazed. We always install our windows to the existing stops. So all of the setbacks of the windows in the openings will be in the existing size and depth of those openings. The windows themselves are offset, many of them to a degree that even lining up for latching the windows is going to be difficult without shimming up the bottom sash. Of the storm windows on the house, there's only 4 decaying original storm windows left. All of the others are the old painted combination storm windows. The owner is willing to keep these if replacement is not approved because they do protect the house. Not a direction we'd prefer to go. With Sheila's direction, we agreed that the Palladian window on the 3rd floor should be maintained. And to be clear, the only reason that we had that listed for replacement originally was because the window was so poorly rehabbed sometime in the past that we actually have a 1/2-inch gap from the sash to the actual window stop. And right now it's just a place where bugs and rain and everything comes through that window. So we will have to take that whole frame out, rebuild it, and reinstall that window. But we believe it's an undertaking worth pursuing. Moving on to the siding really quick. The all-side 3-inch lap siding, I sent Sheila some pictures of some homes I've done in the past with the 3-inch lap replacement siding. We can corner it to the existing siding. The texture of the siding is a smooth texture, so it's got the same finish as the existing siding, and we've got some really good outcomes using that product. That being said, I have located a cedar primed product, same reveal, same depth, for only about $500 more than the all prime. So we're willing to work with staff on making a change for that application. And one thing that was wrong on the original plans, and that was our fault, is we always keep the original siding on the front porch as a representation of the original materials and workmanship. Partly because it's always pretty well maintained because it's been covered for all of these years. And so it was never our intention to take off that original siding on the front porch, just like we're keeping the columns, the beadboard ceilings, the railings, even though they're mostly Bondo at this point, are all going to be maintained to keep the integrity of the house intact. If we are able to take the siding off, obviously we'll be able to put proper flashing in for the windows. We'll generally replicate the original wood flashing in those areas. We'll get an opportunity to replace dry rot sheathing as required. Generally on a job like this, we find 1 to 2 square of side of sheathing will need to be replaced. And because this home actually has cement insulation plastered onto the inside of the sheathing on the inside of the envelope of the house, we fear that possible moisture retention with that cement might actually be a cause for more deterioration than we normally find. As far as the window and door trim, crown moldings, dental moldings, these are all things that we do everything in our power to salvage. Looking at this house, we feel that probably about 90% of all of those applications will be saved. The crown moldings are in great shape. The dental moldings are in great shape. The fluted ionic columns on the front porch are woodpecker infested. There's so much Bondo and everything on those columns. It's going to be a lot of work to bring those back, but it's an undertaking worth pursuing, and so that's what we're going to do. That's always been on our scope of work. Obviously, there's cost implications with restoration versus replacement in these jobs. To properly contain the lead on this house, if we're going to grind and smooth and sand and properly paint the siding to bring it back, we've got $30,000 into it just for scaffolding, lead containment, hazmat suits for the painters. It's a huge job to try to bring this siding back to the level that it should be to properly represent this house. Probably about 3 times the cost to restore versus replace on this house. And to my mind, and I sent a bunch of pictures of the siding today too, and I don't know if Sheila can pull those up, but you know, the question I've always asked myself when I'm looking at these old homes is, at what point are we preserving the 100 years of caulking and Bondo and crappy paint jobs as we're restoring the siding? And in this house, I strongly believe that the proper path is replacement with similar material. I want to talk a little bit about discovery too. In these houses, there's always unexpected things that we come across.
Al, I'm going to need you to wrap up pretty quick.
Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. I wish I had more time for this. We've already discovered rotting soffits, raccoons. I've got urine-soaked soffit boards in the garage. It stinks in there so bad you can't hardly even go in there without gagging. I'll stop there. We're going to discover a whole bunch of other things with this house that we're going to fix the right way to bring this house back to life. I just want to say that I strongly disagree with the staff findings, especially in regard to Secretary of Interior Standards of Rehabilitation Section 2 design, stating that removal of original historic wood siding, trim, and replacement of character defining original windows will negatively impact the integrity and design of the house, and that historic district as these changes will render the house non-contributing. I don't understand how it can be non-contributing when the historical study deemed that 65 of 66 homes in this district meet the standards for historical designation. Most of them have been altered more than we're going to replace, than we're going to alter this home. So I think 4632 Emerson would be a great case study for setting the new historical district guidelines. From what I can tell, nobody in the district has had any communication with Andrea or anybody else about how we're going to proceed with that. I would like to be hugely involved with that whole process if I would be invited to do so. Through restoration of existing elements of this home and replacement with similar materials of others, I think we can create the best possible representation of architecture from this era. I see the possibility for real compromise here that can satisfy the concerns of all the stakeholders involved. And I look forward to working with staff to bring this house to a beautiful completion.
Thank you for your comments, Al.
Well, I'm available for questions. Anyone has questions for me?
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to just check to see if there's anybody else here to speak on this application. There's no one else in the queue, but are there any unregistered speakers? If you could press *6. Doesn't seem like there are any. So with that, I will close the public hearing and open the commissioner discussion. I wanted to get a quick clarification from Andrea Burke. I realize the certificate of appropriateness sounds like it's actually going to be 14 windows. I guess I kind of feel like staff recommendation item 1 addresses that, since they would be working with staff on determining which windows, so clearly dropping to 14 would be accommodated by that. But Andrea or Sheila, do you want to clarify that further?
This is Sheila Vemmer. Thank you, commissioners. The application is for 28 windows because that's what we were given with the window replacement product sheets. The applicant, after the deadline for the application, had been sending a lot more information, but we have to stick with what was in the original application. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess in my mind, I think the staff recommendation 1 kind of fixes that problem, since they would be able to coordinate how many windows. I'm wondering if commissioners have other thoughts on this application. I agree this is a great case study for starting looking at the guidelines and new historic district. Commissioner Stady.
Well, yeah, this is I was going to bring this up in the retreat, but I think the base that we start with, we should think of having something that's homegrown instead of the Secretary of the Interior guidelines. Because very realistically, when it's all said and done, when these guidelines are done for this district, working with the homeowners, this material, this wood material could very well be okay with those guidelines. So I feel like it's tough to, well, if the future applicants will not have to.
I understand that that's a frustration with having an application come before the guidelines are solidified. Commissioner Howard.
Yeah, I do wish we had district guidelines together for this district. But again, I'm not seeing, in the photos that we have, I'm not seeing deterioration that suggests that the entire facade, that all of the materials needs to be removed. Doing in-kind replacement as needed where repairs aren't possible would make much more sense to me based on the information that we have, and it would meet the Secretary of the Interior standards, which is what we have right now to work with. Sometimes parts of the building that are not seen from public facades, synthetic. Guess that's it.
Commissioner Howard. I guess I felt like the staff conditions did a good job of back with the work and doing the replacement that needed, and allowing some of the features on the back of the building to change. And clearly, we welcome everybody to be engaged in the process of developing the guidelines. I think contractors do have a valuable opinion in that. And that, if they did present additional documentation to staff that the wood siding did all need replacement, that could certainly move forward separately. It looks like Staff Member Burke would like to speak.
This is just for HPC staff, just as a quick clarification to Commissioner Stady's comment. Historic design guidelines, local historic design guidelines as a requirement must meet the Secretary of the Interior standards or they will not be approved. It is a requirement. We can't bypass them for reasons. And the Secretary of the Interior standards come from the National Park Service, which comes to us as which is essentially provides the funding, and we are seeing the standards by the Park Service. So this is something we can discuss in is when we submit design guidelines to the SHPO for review and comment, they review to make sure that it meets the standards. So that is the purpose of them, but just to make that clarification, but I will stop as we need to get going. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I think that is a good point. I also think it's the Secretary of Interior standards can be interpreted in a variety of ways, and I think that's maybe more what we need to explore in the guidelines is how exactly we're interpreting those and recommending things to homeowners. As we have very little time left and another item to still discuss, does somebody want to make a motion on this item? Commissioner Howard.
In the interest of time, I thought I'd make a motion. I move to approve the certificate of appropriateness as written in the agenda for 4632 Emerson Avenue South, contributing house in the Lyndhurst Residential Historic District, subject to the conditions as written in the agenda, including the windows and the siding and everything as written there. I can say it all out, but it's all in the agenda, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Howard. Is there a second?
Sandbolt, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandbolt. I guess I want to check with the clerk. Are we good on those conditions that they're the ones from the staff report? Do we need to read them aloud?
I believe that as long as it's as what was published on the agenda and everything,